And these wonderful promises flow on in terms of the restored people of God after the 70 years. Now, what's the specific promise in relation to the oppressors of Israel? What is the promise that Israel receives?
Bow at their feet.
Right. So instead of crushing the Israelites, as they have done in the exile, the Babylonians came down and they crushed the Israelites. Instead of that, the tables will be turned, and the sons of the oppressors, another generation, they're going to come and they will bow down to the Israelites. Right? So God is going to turn the tables right around. Now, these sons of the oppressors were actually Gentiles, weren't they? These were the Gentile nations who have oppressed the Israelites and really stomped on them and said, look, those Israelites are nothing, you know, and Israel's God's nothing, and so on and so forth. Well, God's going to put matters to rights in the restoration, and these Gentile nations, they will come down and they will acknowledge the superiority of the Israelites, and they will, you know, bow down to them instead of the other way around. So that's quite a staggering promise back there in Isaiah. Does everyone understand that? That makes sense to you? You can see it operating in the history. Right, now let's go back to our letter to the church in Philadelphia. These are the words of him who is holy and true, who holds the key of David. What he opens no one can shut, and what he shuts no one can open. What's Jesus saying about himself? Why is he describing himself with that language from Isaiah 22?
Because he's ruling.
Right. He is the ruler. He is the true steward. We'll put him with a capital letter. Over the kingdom. He's the one who's in control, and anybody who wants to go in and have an audience with the king, anyone who wants to be part of the kingdom, has to go through Jesus as the steward of the house. He is the true Eli Arkim. That's his role. And so that's his authority, that's his role in relation to his people and the nature of his kingdom. And then he says, I will make those who are of the synagogue of Satan, who claim to be Jews though they're not, but are liars, I will make them come and fall down at your feet and acknowledge that I have loved you. What's that mean, do you think? This is quite a staggering statement, actually. Maybe I'm going a little bit fast here. So we'll slow up a bit. Let's notice, first of all, from Isaiah 22, that Jesus is the true steward of the house, of the kingdom. Right. Now, what's the problem? We'll add in a couple more steps before we get to that other passage. What's the problem that these believers in Philadelphia are experiencing? Can you see it from the passage?
They're being oppressed.
They're being oppressed. Okay, so the Christians are oppressed by whom?
Jews.
Yep. Very good. By Jews. How do you know that? How do you know it's Jews that are spoken of there?
Who say they are Jews but are not.
Right, so they say they are Jews, they claim to be Jews, but they are not Jews. In fact, what are they? They are a
Synagogue of Satan.
which is a staggering thing to say about them. Synagogue
Satan.
of Satan. Okay. Is this congregation in Philadelphia a large, powerful congregation, or is it small?
Small.
It's a small congregation because they have a little power.
That had lots of money.
They don't have much power and influence. And they're being oppressed by these people who are Jews. Why would the Jews oppress the Christians, by the way? Why would they want to do that? Because they're followers of Christ, and Christ was the one who was condemned in the streets of their city by their own religious authorities. He was crucified by the Romans. And these Christians were seen as an offshoot or a heretical bunch, a sect, exactly. So they had departed from the true faith, and they had gone and worshipped this Christ, this Jesus of Nazareth. And so the Jews were not happy with the Christians, and this is a lot of what's going on in the first century, and it's a lot of what's in the book of Revelation. The Jews were oppressing the Christians and making it very, very difficult for them. Most likely, they've been expelled from the synagogue because of their beliefs. So, as far as the Jews were concerned, the Christians have been placed outside the kingdom. Yeah? They've been sort of excommunicated because they've departed and they're not wanted anymore. In fact, they're a bunch of heretics. And so they're making it very difficult, and so the Jews would have been, the Christians would have been expelled from the synagogue. You with me so far? So here is Jesus. He says he's the true steward of the kingdom. He holds the keys, folks. And when he opens the door to someone, you go in and have an audience with the king. And when he shuts the door to someone, they don't get into the kingdom. Now what's Jesus going to do with these people who are of the synagogue of Satan? Yes.
Close the door.
He will, very good. He will close the door on them. Because they are the ones who are outside the kingdom, not the Christians. Which is a staggering thing to say if you think about it historically in terms of the Old Covenant. These people had rejected the Messiah. They are persecuting those who follow the Messiah, and they're now outside the kingdom. Whereas they think that the Christians are outside the kingdom. You see the issue here? But what's going to happen with those of the synagogue of Satan? What are they going to do? In Isaiah chapter 60, using that language, what will they actually do, these people who are oppressing the Christians, the Jews?
Fall down on their feet.
They'll come down and they'll fall at their feet. And they will acknowledge that the Christians have the truth. It's a wonderful promise. So God is going to reverse the situation, just as He promised to reverse the situation at the time of the exile and the restoration, you know. With the Babylonian oppressors, they're going to come and acknowledge that you people have the truth. Gentiles will do that. But here, these Philadelphians are actually Gentiles, but they're Christians. And these Jews, you see how this is a staggering thing, these Jews are going to come and acknowledge that the Christians have the truth. And they will actually be the fulfillment of that promise in Isaiah chapter 60. So you see how the tables are completely turned around.